Hi, it's me again, Zigiswa aka Tulip. So, this is part two of the relationship post, and I think maybe I want to take it back a couple of steps and just dive into, I think, some very, well, to me, important points that I made when it comes to relationships, and that's A, women's role in relationships and what sort of informs that, as well as men's role in relationship and what informs that. Because I don't think anybody really sets out there to be anything less than the best in the relationship. It obviously comes from a foundational level, and I think that's something very important to look at because people don't really discuss these things just because it's a little uncomfortable and may take us to places where we're not really wanting to interrogate or look at. So, a while back, I wrote an article that was based sort of in a feminist framework, but also was about explaining sort of the relationships that women have with their sons. And so their sons then become men in society. So they go from boys to being men, and they are framed in a specific context, and they taught certain things in that context, and that informs the people that they are and who they ultimately become in relationships in terms of boyfriends and husbands and fathers and friends. And so what I was saying was that we talk a lot about patriarchy. And I think, a lot of people understand what patriarchy is, but we sort of never look at what underpins patriarchy and what keeps it going. And there's a very good quote that speaks to the oppressed, because obviously in this context, women are the oppressed by men. And it's that the most powerful weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. And that's a Steve Biko quote. And I think that's a very important thing, right? Because as women, we also perpetuate the patriarchy by ourselves buying into it or being socialized into it, and then having our own mothers sort of like have us buy into it by the gender roles that are defined at an early age, and what you need to do as a woman, and knowing that growing up, your job is to grow up, make yourself beautiful and presentable to potential suitors out there so that you can become a mom, a wife and a mom, and that's sort of like your highest endeavor. And then when you become a wife and a mom, you then become your husband's everything. And it's your job to take care of him. It's your job to make him feel like a man. Take care of him, in the context of within the home. And so you sexually, domestically cooking and producing children, and basically always being there at his beck and call. And then his job is for you to make yourself available whenever he wants you to be available, and also to basically become like his dependent, or to be his dependent. And it's his job to take care of you in the house, and he builds the house, and you live in the house, and maybe you contribute here and there, but it's always very small things. And he retains a position of authority, and you always defer to him in a relationship because now he is the head of the household, apparently. And so that's like the male sort of side of things. And so for women, you get socialized into thinking that as a young lady, you don't want to be too together. So you don't want to have it all, because then where's your man gonna fit into that? Then he's not gonna feel like he's a man because he's not really adding anything to your relationship. And so it's your job to make yourself smaller. And so even if you're in a career that's like really going well for you, and you're in a position to buy yourself car, your own house, and you can afford every single thing for yourself. You don't actually you're not financially dependent on him. You have to play that down so as to make him feel like, or even make sure that you don't even progress as far as you could possibly progress, because no man is going to want you. it is an archaic idea, but I shit you not, I've heard this so many times from so many people, even from the most surprising quarters and people that you would think are quite enlightened. And at our age, like I'm 34, like I was born in the early 80s. Like you would think at this point in time we've progressed a lot further than that, but that's the truth of it. Like as a woman, it's your job to be dependent on a man and to play yourself down and to be all coy and be like, oh, your manly self should take care of this because I'm just a little old woman, and my little old job that, I'm probably even going to leave when we have babies so I can take care of the babies, but he continues to have his job as though you're not both parents. So I think it's a lot of those socializations that actually end up informing where we end up in relationships and the things the concessions that we're willing to make. Like, so people will love you. So no, you're not as fabulously amazing, and reaching your full potential, because if you do that, then guys are going to be intimidated. And then guys are also like socialized into looking for women who are, diminutive and not all encompassing. Like they don't walk into a room and fill up the space. They are not their own independent people. They don't know who they are, They have to be dependent and look to him for guidance and answers and, nurturing. Nurturing is fine, but being taken care of literally like a child. So I think there's a very like damaging sort of ways of looking at things in a relationship, because there's like an imbalance there. There's a power imbalance, and once there's a power imbalance, then you're susceptible to all sorts of abuses. Not just physical abuse, but also emotional and mental abuse as well. So it's important that we all know that it's okay to be whole people. All of us, whole people, with not necessarily looking for people to depend on us or for us to be dependent on them. I think that's the most essential thing. And don't play yourself down. You're not doing anybody any favors, or yourself least of all. So I think it's important that we look at these relationships and we ask ourselves these serious questions, and why it is that we make the decisions that we make, and then we end up miserable. Please, let's not be miserable. Let's not be in relationships that are not working, but because society tells you this is what you should be doing, you just stay there. Please don't do that. Yeah, so I think that's important too. I said important a lot in this post. Okay, well that was part 2. Could be amazing and stuff.